Good evening, everyone. Again, we will start with quieting your mind, observations. Then we can think the purpose of our life is to be as much help and benefit to others as much as possible. And the best way to be most benefit is to be able to help them to overcome their own delusions, defilements, which are the source of all the suffering. And to be able to show and help them with our own direct personal experience. First, we need to be ourselves free from all the obscurations and achieve fully enlightenment. And in order to achieve fully enlightenment, we need to engage in the 5 paths and 10 bhumis. By cultivating conventional and true Bodhicitta mind, conventional and ultimate Bodhicitta, and engage in these perfections. And to be able to have those realization, we need to practice correctly, practice, meditate. And for that, we need to continue to study, learn, and be reminded of those practices all the time. That is, for that reason, that's why we're here. Listen to the teachings. And may we be able to apply in our everyday life whatever we learn from those teachings as much as possible. Even though we are not unable to apply everything, but at least some of them day by day. Step by step. Okay. What kind of music is that?
Testing. Testing. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Page 73. We'll do the first verse once. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakti clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Page 76, the Heart of Perfection Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling in vast sculptures mounted in Rajana, together with a group of community monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration of the categories of the phenomenon called profound perfection. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasapa Aya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and held on those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasapa Aya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that in Bodhisattva Mahasapa said this to Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates, also as empty of inherent nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristics, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, so up to and including no aging and death, and no extension of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to the unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra perfection of wisdom is declared. Taya ta om gate 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 bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in that profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose in that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya surrounding the entirety, along with the world of God,
human, Asuras, Gandhava, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan.
Page 98, or the bottom of 97, the short mandala offering. Saji Purki Chonshi Meto Tamri Radhe Sangye Shindu Mite Uwai Dokunanda Shiva Chapasho Idam Guru Ratnamandalakani Tayami. Refuge in Bodhicitta, once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Chanju Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonem Ge Peso Namgi Drula Pencher Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam La Chanju Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonem Ge Peso Namgi Drola Pencher Sangye Pasho.
Kanje Dujani Lone, Dawaton Japan Baja, Tampichu Nete Jebe, Bodam de la Chapon. As the great Shantideva said, without cultivating the Bodhicitta mind, not only we cannot achieve fully enlightenment, but also while in samsara, it will be very hard to find happiness and joy. So in order to find more inner peace, joy, sense of satisfaction in our life, while we are in samsara, as well as to achieve ultimate happiness of fully awakened state, then cultivating the awakened mind of Bodhicitta is necessary. And so we spoke about, we went through the chapter where Lama Tsongkhapa explained about how to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind with particular two different methods. And once you have cultivated the Bodhicitta mind, then in order to stabilize and maintain the Bodhicitta mind, then taking the precept, the vows, in terms of taking the precept, the vows, then there are two levels of vows: expiring bodhicitta vows and engaging bodhicitta vows. And so I think we are there where the section on taking the vows. Yeah, 137. Mm-hmm. And in this chapter, I think I'm going to kind of skip quite a few of them, especially those that take the ritual itself and all of that, So there is third has 3 points: receiving that which has not yet received. So for those who have not received the bodhisattvas, whether expiring or engaging bodhisattvas, those who have not received or receiving, and those guarding which has been received without degenerating, and those who have received, how to keep them without breaking or degenerating, and method for restoring it if it has degenerated. And unlike like others vows, whether it's pratimosha vows, such as the lay vows, or within the monks, there are many different levels of vows, monks and nuns, or the tantric vows, is much more difficult to restore it, Tantric vows, you have to either take the initiations or you have to do self-initiations, and it's not, in order to do self-initiation, you need to have a lot of requirements, practices. So, and also the pratimosha vows, also. But with the bodhisattva vows, you can restore from another teacher, or you can restore yourself every day if you wish, So that is first the assertion of early master, like Kadamba masters, early masters, accord with the master Jitari, that it is not enough for a person from whom the vow is taken is possessed the vow aspiring bodhicitta and abiding in training. Rather, he must possess the vow engaging. So, in terms of from whom you are receiving the bodhisattva vows, the person who is giving the bodhisattva vows, not only that person need to have expiring bodhicitta vows and being able to keep it, but also they need to have engaging bodhisattva vows and to be able to keep. So it's the person who's giving or from whom someone is receiving, they need to have the bodhisattva vows themselves and to be able to keep. And then in terms of the basis, it takes all sentient beings, all gods, nagas, and so forth, like human beings, who are physically and mentally suitable to generate the aspiring bodhicitta, are also suitable for basis for it, to take the engaging with vows. And the motivation to take the vows is, repulse, having renounced, having some kind of, repulsed or being detached to the samsara, exactly existing by understanding the nature of samsara is suffering. And then also being mindful of death and with the wisdom and the great compassion. So those are some of the cause and conditions, and that in order to go for refuge, not refuge, so to take the bodhisattva vows. So here, thus, it should be someone who has gained little experience transforming his mentality into bodhicitta due to having trained the mind in states of path as explained previously. So at least someone who is going to take the bodhisattva's vows, engaging with, they should have at least some understanding of the bodhicitta as explained in the past. At least they need to have inspirations. Even if we don't have the realization of bodhicitta mind at the moment, but at least you have the inclination and inspirations towards that and some understanding of that. And third has 3 point, the actual ritual itself, the ceremony itself, preparations, and the actual and the concluding rituals. And the first 3 point, so when we do the rituals, we start with some, part of that ceremony. First, you go for refuge, and then accumulating the accumulations, the accumulation of merit and wisdom, and training the attitude to develop the bodhicitta mind. And then I think it goes. Then I don't think maybe we don't need to go all of that. Preparations for the ceremonies and all of that, and then the actual ceremony itself, the repeating 3 times of that, and then the practice of 7 limbs. So again, in terms of the ceremony, when we talk in order to take the bodhisattva vows, or in order to restore it, there are many different ceremonies, more extensive, more shorter, medium, and very short. And this is the little bit more extensive ones. So, yeah. Then maybe, I don't know. So maybe so there is first taking the refuge, and then and so then training the attitude, which is 140 page number, where it said third, as explained previously, observe object and expect love and compassion should be visualized. So as explained, we need to cultivate loving kindness, compassion towards sentient beings as much as possible. And so here, and then after the refuge, then taking the aspiring bodhicitta mind vows. And that is different from the engaging bodhisattva vows. The real bodhisattva vows, the engaging bodhisattva vows, which comes with the 18 root vows and 46 secondary vows. And so, but before that, you go through aspiring bodhicitta vows. But if someone is not feel that they are not ready to take the engaging bodhisattva vows, and they feel they are ready to take for the aspiring bodhicitta vows, then they can also take just that one as well. But if someone feels they are even not ready to take the aspiring bodhicitta vows, they could still generate the bodhicitta mind. And so that is where it says, mind generation here is not a mere mind generating that thing I will attain Buddha for the welfare of others. Rather, it is the promise that observe the mind that has been generated. Thing I shall not give up as long as I have not attained enlightenment. This is why this attitude should be generated in reliance upon ritual. So when you are taking expiring bodhicitta vows, it's not just generating through the meditation and practice, not only generating a bodhicitta mind that wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings out of loving kindness, compassion. You try to cultivate that bodhicitta mind. Having cultivated that bodhicitta mind, then you make a determination, promise to keep that bodhicitta mind and not to be separate from bodhicitta mind. When you take the expiring bodhicitta vows, that is what it is. So here, that is what I explain it. It's not just generating bodhicitta mind, but once you generate bodhicitta mind, then you make the promise, make the commitment or determination that you will not let go of this bodhicitta mind. You will not be separated from bodhicitta mind until you achieve enlightenment. And making that promise is part of that aspiring bodhicitta mind taking. So that is where it is. And so here, the exception here is saying, if you are unable to train, even in training aspiring bodhicitta, not only engage in bodhicitta vows, but even if someone is not feel they are not ready to have even the vows or precept or aspiring bodhicitta, then you should not make the promise. You just try to try to generate bodhicitta mind, but you don't make that promise. But that is, however, for generating mind through that, I will become a Buddha for welfare of all sentient by means of ritual. For that, everyone can do so if they have some inclination, if they have some inspirations, regardless of whether or not they are able to train in the training of mind generations. With respect to expiring bodhicitta, those two approaches may be appropriate. However, with respect to taking the engaged bodhicitta by means of ritual, is inappropriate to take it without training in the trainings. Training of such as the wish to train in the practice of bodhisattva, such as six perfections. You need to, in order to take engaging bodhisattva vows, then you need to develop a strong wish, not only to wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, but making kind of cultivating the intentions, the motivation to engage in the training of bodhisattva, such as the practice of six perfections. And so that is necessary, absolute. And therefore, it is unreasonable to posit that difference of appropriate and inappropriate should be made with regard to many rituals for vows transmitted from Nagarjuna and Asanga. So, there was some misunderstanding in the past. According to Asangas, it is appropriate to take engaging bodhisattva vows without the wish to train in the sixth perfection, and according to Nagarjuna is, so there is, and so Lama Tsongkhapa is clearing that misunderstanding. He says either you follow the rituals or ceremony that is developed by following the Nagarjuna or Asanga. Either way, in order to take an engaging bodhisattva vows, you need to have that the wish to train in the sixth perfection and the bodhisattva practice. So that is necessary either way. So that is where Lama Tsongkhapa is trying to clarify a little bit of some misunderstanding there is in some. And so then in terms of, Lama Tsongkhapa kind of quoting from the advice of King of Prasannaji that says that if one cannot train in training of generosity and so forth, such as six perfection, generosity, morality, patience, joy, eagerness, so forth, a great amount of merit accomplished in mere mind generation, taking this as a source. Stages of meditation one by Kamala Shila is whoever cannot train in perfection fully in all aspects should still generate the bodhicitta truly conjoined with the method, because the result will be great. So here saying there is a beneficial, extremely great beneficial to take the inspiring bodhicitta vows or precept, even if someone is not ready to take engaging bodhicitta vows, because the great benefit. And so by having the aspiring bodhicitta precepts, then you create incredible amount of merit each moment, each second, and so forth. I think there will be more. Thus, it is clear that it's appropriate for someone incapable of training with generosity and so forth to do the mind generation, but inappropriate to take the vows, meaning the engaging both of vows. Okay, in order to take engaging both of vows, you should be make the determination, dedications, or motivation, intention to train in the practice, such as the self-perfections. So then we will skip the ceremony itself. And then the ceremony change slightly if you cannot whether to take it. It is advised when you're taking for the first time, it's best to take from a teacher, a master. But still, you are in a place where there is no master, no teacher, you cannot take still. If there is that cases, then you can still take from a holy object such as statues. And so the repetition of ceremony might be slightly different. Instead of master, please pay attention to me, then you say, please, all the Buddhas in both of 10 directions, please pay attention to me. So you imagine, visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas being there and taking in from them when you can't find the teachers. And then you imagine, visualize, repeating after them 3 times. And the wording change slightly. Instead of master, then you say, all the Buddhas in both of 10 directions. So, and when you are trying to do, renew and restore yourself, you can also do that by doing that in front of holy objects as well. Okay. And so that is where it is saying this is the manner of taking mind generation present or master. But in the elders mind generation ritual, it says what to do if you cannot find master. So that is so then that next one is the where second has, once you have taken the aspiring bodhicitta, then how to keep the precept it without degenerating it. Second is 2-point training the cause of the mind generating, not generating this life. Practice to not to degenerate in this life, and also training the cause of not being separated from the mind generation again in the future lives. General mind generation is same as bodhicitta. There are many different terms. In Tibetan term, Changjugi Sem, which is the mind of enlightenment, the bodhicitta. Semke means, I think this is where it is, the mind generation is a direct translation of that. And so it is, the first has 4 points. Training in the remembrance of advantage. So reflecting, contemplating, meditating, training to recollect and remember the advantage or benefit of the bodhicitta mind. Okay, that's first. So that the strength of one's delight in mind generation increases. The more you understand, the more you realize the benefit, the advantage, the benefit of the Bodhicitta mind, the more your delight in not wanting to lose and wanting to maintain, wanting to increase, Training, generating, it's 6 times, So again, training to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind 6 times. It will come maybe, I don't know, maybe it will come later, yeah. Yeah, I think it will come 6 times, normally 3 times in the day and 3 times in the night. And so if you divide, it's almost like every 4 hours. But since, that will be more really kind of way of practicing, when we did a 6 session Guru Yoga or 6, all of that. But since, we lazy people cannot do that, so some of the teachers make it easier. We recite 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening. In that way, we kind of do the 6 times. But really, the way of training is like, every 4 hours of that, that will be the more, whether it's the refuge, whether it's a bodhicitta, when we say 3 times, 6 times, like that, that will be the more. But yeah, if we can do that, it will be better, because then each time we are generating bodhicitta mind, each time we do that, instead of 1 time in the morning, yeah, and repeating 3 times. And so the actual mind generation increases, so that our bodhicitta mind increases. Each time we try to train, meditate, it increases, becomes stronger. Training in not mentally abandoning any sentient for whose welfare the mind has generated. So when we generate the bodhicitta mind, and especially when we take aspiring bodhicitta precepts, then we are generating that and taking precepts in order to work for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so that, because we have taken on the basis that to work for the benefit of all sentient beings, and so therefore we should train not to abandon any sentient beings. If you abandon one sentient beings and then you decided, I'm not going to work for the benefit of that sentient beings, I'm not going to work I'm not going to help and benefit that sentient beings. When you make that kind of mind, then you are kind of abandoning one of the sentient beings' welfare. Is another thing when you are unable to do it and not abandoning. Do you get it? Sometimes someone asks your help, but because of you don't have the skill, you don't have the resource, you don't have time, whatever, you are unable to do it. And that is different than when you make a decision, I'm not going to help that person. Do you get it? When you make a kind of mind that I dislike that person, therefore I'm not going to work for that person. I'm not going to help that person. When you make that kind of decision, then that is where you are abandoning one of the sentient beings and welfare of one of the sentient beings. In training, in accumulating the accumulation of merit and wisdom, and as we mentioned, in order to achieve the fully enlightenment for which we have cultivated the bodhicitta mind and for which we have taken the precept of aspiring bodhicitta, in order to achieve fully enlightenment so we can be the most benefit to each and every sentient beings. In order to achieve that enlightenment, then we need a lot of support, and support of merit, the collection of merit through the practice of method and collection of wisdom. and the two collection, the collection of merit and the wisdom. Okay, the merit coming from the method, through the practice of method. So then coming to the, talking about the first point, the advantage of the Bodhicitta. First, you consider advantage of Bodhicitta. So, you know, so studying the sutras or hearing them from your gurus. And since they have been taught extensively in array of the Slok Sutra, you should study there. And even though we cannot study those sutras, at least maybe we can study like Guides to Bodhisattva Web, like chapter 1. In chapter 1, he explained about all the benefit of the Bodhicitta. So chapter 1 is the one that you can, one of extensive, and you can also see in other Lam-Rim's teaching as well, in this Lam-Rim as, but that is the quotation from above. It says in that sutra, it is the seat of all dharma of the Buddha. So the Bodhicitta is like the seat of all the dharma of the Buddha, you know. Without the Bodhicitta, there's no enlightenment, the Buddhas. And all the contact and inspiration of Bodhisattvas summarized in that sutra. Therefore, it is said to be like a brief presentation, although the extensive explanation of element is boundless. So even though, since the brief presentation contains everything, the brief presentation, like a synthesis of them, teach synthesis that summarize essential point of all the path of Bodhisattvas. And then also in Asanga's Bodhisattva level, as it says, as the adventure taught in Asanga concern expiring Bodhicitta from among them, and among many of, so in that again it explained many benefits, but here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying he's going to just take two benefits from that. He's going to among that. The two advantages of generating stable mind generation are mentioned first. You know, the one first is you become a holy field and you truly hold merit of non-harm. So it is saying, you know, by generating bodhicitta mind, then you become object of respect, object of homage, object of offering by all the sentient beings, because you have this incredible bodhicitta mind who have taken on all the responsibility of all sentient beings, you know, and you truly hold the merit of non-harm, and through that bodhicitta mind you have created so much merit, you will have less harm by inhuman and humans. And then again, I think, and I think to some extent we can even observe and see, you know, people who are cruel, mean, unkind, they have more enemies. And therefore, they will have more harm. People who are more loving, compassionate, caring, they have less enemy. And therefore, they will have less, they will receive less harm. The more enemy, the more harm, chances of more harm. The less enemy, the chances of less harm. First, as stated in scripture, the world in its God's human will bow to you, you know, pay homage, respect. As soon as you generate mind, you become object of veneration of all sentient beings. I mean, if someone, you know, if someone take as responsibility to protect me, to help me, to free from all my problem, my suffering, to help me to lead me to happy state, of course I will appreciate that person so much. I will respect that person so much. I will hold that person very highly. So the bodhisattvas, when you have taken a bodhicitta mind and you become bodhisattva, you have done that to all sentient beings. And therefore, they become object of that kind of respect, you know, that where with Bodhicitta and who have developed Bodhicitta and Bodhisattva, who are more concerned than others' well-being than their own concerns, is very rare. And as stated in scripture, you outshine the arhat, great being by way of your lineage. As soon as you generate this mind, you become a guru or exalted beings. So here it says, arhat, even though they have great wisdom, even though they have great wisdom, direct realization of emptiness and great wisdom, and they are free from all the defilements, achieve individual liberations. But someone who have just generated the bodhicitta mind overshine them due to their bodhicitta mind. Even though they have more wisdom, but because of even though they have less wisdom at this point, but because of their incredible bodhicitta mind, they outshine them. And like lineage, in one of the sutra, Buddha gave a few examples, like, he gave one example of diamond, even its broken diamond outshine on the value that of other minerals like gold and silver, even they are not broken, whatever ornament that it is. Same way, also he also explained about, of course, using the old example when there was still king, when the prince is born, when the crown prince is born, okay, the crown's prince outshine the most what was the word, experience and wisdom minister, okay, by just being born as the prince, crown prince and the king. Because of that lineage, now you become, even though the minister has all the experience, all the wisdoms, so much wisdom, so much experience, and the crown prince have no experience, no wisdom has developed so far, but because being born in that family as a crown, it outshine. He become more precious than the minister. Everyone in the countries pay very high of that prince than the minister because of lineage. So it says similarly, the bodhisattvas are like the crown prince, even though they might not have same wisdom as the arhat, but because of that, then they outshine. So that is, I think, in one sutra it says, so it's similar here, it's saying. And you become a field of merit due to yielding luminous effect, even though doing minor meritorious actions, So, maybe you might be just small things like a practice of generosity, and even not a big generosity, even just feeding a small ant, one small bug, It's a virtues of meritorious, very minor, small, but because of your bodhicitta mind, it becomes huge. It becomes bodhisattva practice. It becomes cause of enlightenment. You create incredible amount of merit just by that practice. So that is, and due to the supporting the whole world, you are like the earth. And because bodhicitta, then you make this determination to benefit and help and protect all sentient beings. Therefore, you are like the earth, which support all the beings. According to that statement, you become like a father of all beings. So taking the responsibility of all sentient beings. So that person become like the fathers who take the responsibility of all the families. Again, I think maybe, it could be father and mothers, Second, since you have guarded by twice as many protectors as protect a universal monarch, yakshas and non-human primordial locals guardian cannot harm you even when you are asleep, intoxicated, careless. And especially, it is saying, if there's any kind of spirit harm, the best way to protect ourselves and others from any kind of spirit harm is cultivating loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind towards the spirit. By understanding, just like ourselves, that spirit also want to be happy and not want to suffer. But just like ourselves, due to self-grasping, ignorance, and self-cherishing honors, self-cherishing attitude, we hurt each other, we harm each other due to that. And with that understanding, then, cultivating, just they are no different than ourselves. And just like we hurt and harm someone, intentionally, unintentionally, when our mind is totally disturbed by one of those negative emotions. And sometimes they can also do that. So with that understanding, cultivating compassion, love, and requesting them to not to hurt and harm yourself or others. Without that loving kindness, compassion, making that kind of request is the best way to protect yourself, protect others. His Holiness Dalai Lama shared a story, one time I think in India, he was, I think the Tibetan associations in one of the villages, they had some factories, wood factories, furniture. And then someone came and asked if he can come and they said there is some kind of spirit there that is harming, damaging. If he can come and do some kind of ritual ceremonies to clear it. And His Holiness says, he went there and then he said, of course, he's being very humble, and he says, I don't know any kind of ritual to kind of clear them. I don't have any rituals to kind of through the wrathful practice and that to kind of chase them away and nothing. I don't have that power. I don't know how to do it, but I contemplated loving kindness, compassion to them. And then without that loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, I requested them not to harm. By understanding that they would not like to be harmed by others. And with that example, understanding also, please don't harm others. And he said he did that, and later he heard that it helped little. And he said he didn't lose his nose. Again, being a... and His Holiness often shared that story, many others stories that he has been asked and requested because someone feel they are hurt by some kind of spirit and if he can help him. And he always says he contemplate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and develop them in that. And and so that is when you have bodhicitta mind towards all sentient beings in that way, then definitely, you are less harm, And you pacify calamity, harm, and infection, disease with the word of 16 mantra and knowledge mantras. And also, when you have strong bodhicitta mind, in some cases, in certain cases and with certain karmic connections, someone can stop. There are many stories of bodhisattvas, when they are climatists, or there when there's so much chronic, some kind of infection disease, and those is in situation where out of their loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, they make, due to all my compassion, loving kindness, that all due to all my virtues that I've generated, cultivated in the past, due to all the virtues that I have not harmed and helped others, due to all of that, may this spread of the disease be stopped. May the climate be stopped by making some of those prayers and dedications by bodhisattvas, through by relying on the word of truth. Sometimes there are cases where it can be subdued, so power of the bodhicitta. So that is even things that cannot be accomplished in the hands of sentient being will accomplish when they come into your hand. And when you have bodhicitta mind, because you accumulate so much merit, and then you can accomplish more easily when you have the merit, because you have the conducive conditions. Things that we are unable to accomplish because we don't have internal conducive conditions, the merit. And so when you have merit and when you have bodhicitta, you create so much merit each moment, each second. What needs to mention that other things will be accomplished. Due to this, the collection of activities, pacification, and so forth are shown to be early accomplished in reliance on mind generation. So, sometime in Tantra, they talk about, 4 kind of practice, the 4 activities: pacifying, extensions, the activity of extension, empowering, and wrathful. And so those will be more successful if you do with bodhicitta mind. So that is, if you don't have bodhicitta mind, then you are trying to, without of wrathful, you are trying to kind of chase away or trying to harm and destroy, whether it's a spirit or whatever. It might do more damage to yourself. It's like you are trying to hurt someone who is more powerful than yourself, because we don't have that power, and we just are using whatever rituals we are using, just so therefore, but when you are doing out of bodhicitta mind, as I mentioned, you don't even have to use any wrathful activities to do that, so that is where. Therefore, if you have that, you will also quickly accomplish the common cities, so common and uncommon. Normally they are in Tantra, they talk about 8 common accomplishment or cities, and uncommon accomplishment is the Buddhahood. So that is where fear, famine, harm from non-human being will not occur in those places which they have not occurred, and in transmitting, you will have little harm, will have little illness, and so forth. And of course, if there is a bodhicitta mind and bodhisattva, wherever the bodhisattvas, they will have less of those through the power of their bodhicitta mind. Even there are some of those, there will be less compared to other places. And again, I think, okay. Due to being endowed with the patience and gentle disposition, you will bear harm that is done to you, and you will not return the harm like that. And so, if you have bodhicitta mind, then definitely you will have a patience. And because of that bodhicitta mind and patience and gentle, even someone try to harm you or harm you, your mind will be not disturbed. You will not be agitated. You will not have ill will feelings. So your mind is in peace. Also, you will not try to harm them back. And so by not harming them back, again, You don't create more negative karma and condition to receive more harm in the future. Also, it will be difficult for you to born in a lower rebirth, and if it happens, you will quickly be freed, and sometimes they say like this, some example they give like a bouncing of the ball, bouncing of the ball, the balls just go and bounce back. So in some cases, the bodhisattvas, due to some actions, they might be in lower realm, but it's like bouncing of the ball, just then out there. So even it quickly be free. While there, you will have little suffering, and thereby, as a result, become extremely disenchanted with the cyclic existence, and also compassion of those sentient beings will arise. So even you are in a lower rebirth, you will have little suffering, not as much suffering as normal, and therefore also you will have a more stronger renunciation to the samsara, as well as more compassion for the sentient beings by seeing those suffering within that rebirth. And then if the merit of bodhicitta were to become a form, of course it is something we cannot see, when we talk about virtues and merit. But if it had a form, then it could not be contained in space. The space will be too small for that merit of the bodhicitta mind. Making offering of material things to the Buddha does not compare to even partially. So saying, when we make a lot of offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we create a lot of merit. But compared to the merit that you create bodhicitta, that kind of merit is nothing compared to the merit that you create by generating bodhicitta mind. I don't know whether we need to go through them. Or maybe I could just read. If the merit of, then in the house of the host elder Viradada, it says, if the merit of bodhicitta were to have physical form, all the realms of space will be filled in. It will be too small. It will be surpassed by it. Buddhas feel as numerous as the sand grain of river Ganges, offered by someone filled with jewels and all kinds of jewels, all the precious jewels. And to the protector of the world, the Buddhas, if someone joins his palms and vows to the bodhicitta, this is distinctly superior to that offering made. As for this, it has no limit. And as, okay, maybe no. When the great elder, here Adisha, referred to the Adisha, okay, great elder. Adisha was circumambulating the Vasra seat in Bodh Gaya. The Bodh Gaya is the place where Buddha got enlightenment. And Vasra seat is where the Buddha actually meditated and achieved the enlightenment there. So there's what's called Vasra seat, And so he was circumambulating there and thought about what to do to attain complete enlightenment quickly. So he was thinking, how can I achieve enlightenment very quickly, And then smaller statues stood up and asked the bigger one, what should those who want to quickly become a Buddha train in? So those statues must be some manifestation of some of the Buddha's bodhisattvas, Whereupon the latter reply, they should train in the bodhicitta. So if you want to get enlightenment quickly, practice the bodhicitta. That was a discussion. When in the sky above the gondola statues, a young woman cautioned the elder one, and the latter made similar reply. Again, the young woman was asking, to achieve enlightenment quickly, what should one train? And then the elder one saying, one need to practice the bodhicitta. So again, those also must be manifestation of some of the enlightened beings that manifesting there, Buddha's bodhisattva. It is said that due to hearing that, his mind become very certain with the respect. So after he heard that, and after he of course, studying that, then he feel very convinced that he need to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind. That is the importance. And then he was searching the teachers who can teach him how to generate the cultivate Bodhicitta. And he searched in all India and then he heard about one teacher in Indonesia now, about one teacher who is known to have this incredible Bodhicitta mind. And so then he made the journey by boat at that time, it's like 11th centuries. It took him, I think, 13 months, very dangerous, small boat and in the big oceans. 13 months to reach there. And then under him, he studies and practiced for 12 years. And through them, he cultivated the Bodhicitta mind, became an expert, not just explaining, but with his own experiences. And so, in this way, you should understand Bodhicitta as a content, essential point of all Mahayana instruction, the great treasure of all the cities. The extinctive feature distinguishing Mahayana from the Hinayana, a supreme basis that exhorts one to the vast contact of victorious children. So Bodhicitta is the very heart and essence of all the Buddha's teachings, especially. All the Buddha's teachings directly, indirectly lead towards fully enlightenment. And in order to lead towards that path of fully enlightenment, then it is led through cultivating loving kindness, compassion, Bodhicitta, and then engaging in the practice such as practice of generosity, moral discipline, and so forth, success perfection. So the very, very heart of the Buddha's teaching is the Bodhicitta, and so you should increase the strength of your delight in meditating on it and act like someone thirsty, hearing water, because when analyzing the path, the Buddhas and their children, having made it more and more subtle by means of their marvelous knowledge over many eons, saw it to be supreme method for attaining the Buddhahood. Thus it is engaging. So all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, when they, with their own direct experience, when they analyze what has been the most essential point of practice and experience for them, and what is the most beneficial for all sentient beings, they also, the Bodhicitta is the one. They also, with their own direct experience, the Bodhicitta mind was the crucial, essential for them to achieve their enlightenment. Also, they saw that as the more crucial and essential part for them to be helpful and beneficial and service to the others. So that is what they saw. And so through that kind of understanding, reflection, contemplation, then we should develop sense of delight, joy of wanting to cultivate, train and cultivate that Bodhicitta mind within ourselves. Just like, someone thirsty for water, having the thirsty to study, to train, and to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind within ourselves. Having reflected through for many eons, the Buddha saw the above as all beneficial. The second has 2 points. So training in not giving up and increasing the aspiring mind generation, sorry. It's even the paper sounds like the thunder. First, in the birth perfection of summary of the perfection of wisdom in 8,000 lines, it is taught that if you take Buddha's Bodhisattva and your spiritual teachers as your witness, so when we take a aspiring or engaging Bodhisattva precept or vows, not only whether we take from the teacher or whether we take from a holy object, either way we visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as the witness for our taking the precept and making those commitments and promise, in their present vow to liberate. In that vow, then we make the vows to liberate sentient beings that have not been liberated, and so forth, to give breath to those who are unable to breathe, and so forth. But then lay down the burden of mind generation because of discourage due to seeing in the mornings. So we might be discouraged and give up trying to be helpful and benefit and to work for the benefit of others, by seeing sometime because enormous number of sentient beings and their bad action, because we see sentient beings countless, and feel like discouraged and think, oh, I cannot do it. So thereby we might give up that. Or sometimes we feel, even we're trying to be kind and nice and trying to be helpful, we see some people are not nice. And despite your kind gesture and help, they might be mean and unkind and cruel to you or someone else. And you feel, I can't do any help and benefit to them. And so therefore giving up that. Or sometimes, long time you need to exert yourself, many eons, and in order to liberate all sentient beings from all the suffering and cause of suffering, we cannot liberate in one lifetime, and to walk on the Bodhisattva path, it might take many, many eons. And so maybe we think, again, it's too long and I cannot, and thereby again you might give up, and so that is necessary training, limitless true accumulation and difficult practices. And or we might think, because in order to liberate all sentient beings, we need to achieve fully enlightenment. In order to achieve enlightenment, we then practice, and we need to create the collections of merit and wisdom in 3 eons, and then it ceases the collection too much, and therefore you might give up. So if you give up, then here he said it will be greater bad actions, negative karma, than a defeat of individual liberations. When we break some of the individual liberation vows, such as lay vows or the monks and nuns vows, it's much more, breaking the Bodhisattva's precept is much more, just as taking the precept is much more beneficial and more powerful. In same way, when you break it, also is more negative karma than breaking the others' precepts and vows. So being mindful and trying to not to break it as much as possible. In engaging Bodhisattva, it says if you give out the mind, you have undertaken the aspiring Bodhicitta precepts, you will have to wander in the lower realm for a long time. So also same text says, a blind mind, as blind men find a jewel in a heap of dust, like that effortlessly Bodhicitta has arisen. Also, when you develop, then you should also develop great delight and joy and rejoice that you have been able to cultivate the Bodhicitta mind and to receive the precept of the aspiring Bodhicitta mind. Just as that person will feel that joyfulness. Take that what I have found it absolute amazing, and I will not give it up under any circumstances, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how challenging it might be in our life. Sometimes it might not be easy to be compassionate in those challenging circumstances. It might be easy to be compassionate in easy circumstances. But when it is a very challenging circumstances, it might not be easy to be loving kindness, compassion, and to have bodhicitta. So here we make a strong determinations. Not only I will try to practice loving kindness, compassion when things are easy and not so challenging, but even in difficult time, in challenging, I will practice and not give up, no matter how challenging it is. So to cultivate that kind of determination, thought again, important, again and again, every day we try to make that kind of commitment. Every day we try to make that kind of determinations that, no matter how difficult people I might face, no matter how difficult my situation is, no matter how difficult the circumstances, situation in the world that we live in, I will not allow my loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta to get deteriorated and give up working for any of sentient beings, Second, since it's not enough to merely not give up, you should reinforce it 3 times day and 3 times a night with great effort. So not only give up, but we want to improve and increase it, Not only maintain it from not degenerating it, but we would like to improve and increase that bodhicitta mind to become more stronger, And to do that, then we try to engage in practice of 6 times. If possible, 6 times in the night, 3 times in the night, 3 times. If not, then 3 times. So the idea, as I mentioned, it is like a fire, When you start a fire, okay, and while the fire is going on, in order to keep the fire going on, every few hours of that you try to put one wood, so there is continuity of that. Otherwise, if the fire stop, to restart the fire will be very difficult, take long time, a lot of effort. So you don't want to make that fire, you want to keep it continually, adding the wood time to time. Same way, in the morning, we might have generated the bodhicitta mind, and then again, if we don't reconnect with it, it can, morning you feel strong about it. By 2 hours, your bodhicittas might be a little bit not so strong. So again, you practice. After 4 hours, then it's kind of reinforces. It's like giving the fuel to that bodhicitta, and it keep on continuing, all the time, throughout the day and night, Reinforcing. And sometimes, morning we try to generate a good bodhicitta mind. Then during the daytime, we become not mindful, or maybe we encounter someone who is not nice, unkind, cruel, do something, and our practice is not strong. We don't have the patience. Bodhicitta is not strong enough now. And so then we might be disturbed, upset, and then we might feel angry. We might have bad feelings, wishing them all the bad things, wishing them may they suffer, and all maybe bad things happen to them, and maybe we might have those kind of bad feelings that would make our bodhicitta to degenerate. And so again, when we redo that, again, it's kind of reinforcing, re-energizing, refreshing it, And so that is that way practice. And that is one of the reasons all those different practices, when they talk about 3 times, 6 times, 5 times, that is the reason, the wide number they have. It's not like 6 times, you can do 12 times. Eventually, you would like to do not only 6 times, instead of every 4 hours, every 2 hours. Eventually, instead of every 2 hours, every 1 hour. Eventually, instead of every 1 hour, every half hour. Every 10 minutes, every 1 minute, every 1 second, and then 24 hours, the bodhicitta mind is active, alive, manifesting all the time. That is where we want to reach. But training is like that, you know. So we have to see those as a training method. A lot of those numbers, when it comes a lot of number in practice, sometimes we wonder why this and this numbers, you know. Why 3 times? Why not 1 time? Why not 2 times? Why not 4 times? Why 3 times? Why 6 times? And those are a method to do that, but it's not an absolute number, you know. It's beginning. Start with, even with 6 to 12, 12 to 24, 24 to 48, and eventually we don't even have to meditate and reflect on it. It's just small, it's just effortless, natural, spontaneous all the time. That is the state we want to reach. But these are a method to reach to that point. Also, yeah. So number okay. And so one of the prayer that we can do to generate the bodhicitta mind by using this prayers, and I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha Dharma and foremost assembly through the practice of generating so on may I attain enlightenment, Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. So we can use these particular verses to reflect, contemplate, and generate the bodhicitta mind, you know, and to renew that. But you can use other verses as well, you know, whatever verses you find more beneficial and helpful. This is just one of the examples. Third, the measure of mentally abandoning sentient beings is the occurrence of thought. Here, that is where I will not work for this, his or her welfare now or even after, depending on some condition. For example, he has done something unacceptable. So, you know, someone has done something unacceptable, something harmful to yourself, your family, friends, or another beings. And because we are so upset and angry with that, then we make that decision that I'm not going to help and benefit that in the futures, you know. So that means you are abandoning one of sentient beings. You are giving up welfare, working for the welfare of one sentient beings. And when you give up, then your whole body, aspiring bodhicitta collapse. When the parts collapse, the whole collapse. Okay. When the leg of this table collapse, then the table will collapse. And so the bodhicitta mind is generated on the basis of taking in consideration for the welfare of all sentient beings. And when you have abandoned for the working for the welfare of one sentient beings, then that bodhicitta is not same bodhicitta. And I think that is something that we have to remember carefully, you know. It's one thing that we are unable to help and benefit, as I mentioned earlier, but making that kind of decision, you know, I will not work for the welfare or benefit of one particular sentient being because their particular actions will be breaking our own bodhicitta mind, deteriorating and breaking the bodhicitta precepts. Fourth, having taken expiring bodhicitta through a rituals, you know, that is the precept, you should put effort in accumulations through daily offering to the jewel and so forth at the cost for increase. So in order to increase our bodhicitta mind, then we need to create more virtues more merit, and as a way of that, then making offering to the 3 jewels and making generosity and so forth, practicing the generosity and so forth. And the second has 2-point training in abandoning the 4 non-virtuous practice that cause to generate the bodhicitta mind, and training in adapting the 4 virtuous practice that do not allow it to generate, but to increase, to maintain and increase. First, among the 4 non-virtuous practice, with respect to that of deceiving one's abbot, master, and guru, or those worthy of offering. So that is deceiving those objects. And the objects that are one's own abbots or masters are easy to understand. Abbots from which we receive different, precept, vows, so forth. Your guru is someone who wishes to benefit you, and those worthy of offering are those endowed with excellent qualities. So, generally speaking, but here particularly our spiritual gurus, who is out of their compassion trying to help us, even though they do not belong to the previous 2. If you wonder about what action become a non-virtuous practice with respect to them, knowingly cheating them by any means is non-virtuous practice. So cheating the very teachers and guru from where we learn about Bodhicitta, from where we receive the Bodhicitta's precepts and vows and all of that, intentionally, intentionally deceiving them, cheating them, is cheating them and deceiving any sentient beings in general. It's non-virtuous, But especially in these cases, when we cheat the very persons from which we are receiving all the teachings, instructions, and the precepts and all of that, the bodhicittas, and so then that become the cause to degenerate our bodhicitta mind and the precept. However, as the deceit and shiftiness that are not lies are indicated below, here it has to be cheating through lying. So here, not only deceiving and cheating, but cheating and deceiving through lying. And this is because in competent training by Shantideva, it is taught that abandoning a non-virtuous practice constitutes a virtuous practice, and that is the antidote to this non-virtuous practice, the first of 4 virtuous practice. Being the first virtuous practice is being honest, which will come later. With respect to the causing others to regret, so that is the second one. Regret virtues that they have not regretted. The object is another person without regret about virtue that he has done, and one who does to him is that with the intention of making him regret, one generate regret for that which is not an object of regret. So someone has engaged in the practice of virtues, and then someone says something, do something for them to regret their virtues, with the intention to wanting to make them regret there's something virtuous. And so that is, if we do that, then again, instead of encouraging someone to engage in the virtues, we are kind of discouraging them indirectly from engaging in virtues, because we are making them feel bad and regret for something good things, something virtuous that they have done. And so that become a cause to degeneration of our own virtues of the bodhicitta, in the precept. As regard to this, it is the same whether or not persons deceive or whether one's So your intention to deceive them, whether you have been able to deceive them or not, it doesn't matter. Once you do with that intention to deceive them, then that non-virtuous actions is created. Also, you have been, whether the person regret or not, but if you have the intention to make them regret their virtues and that you engage in the action to make them regret, whether they regret or not, the other person regret or not, it doesn't matter. But you have created that non-virtuous action that degenerates your virtues, your bodhicitta minds, the precepts. With respect to the saying something uncomplimented and like about sentient being who has entered the Mahayana, and the object is someone who has generated bodhicitta and who possesses, so like a bodhisattva, who has generated bodhicitta. And then what one does to him is say something unpleasant, motivated hatred, Not only saying something unpleasant, but motivated by hatred. And so when you, out of hatred, someone, bodhisattva, who have generated bodhicitta, if you say something unpleasant, and then that again degenerate your own bodhicitta mind, your own aspiring bodhicitta precepts and non-virtues. Okay? The object to whom it has said is understand the meanings. It is easy for this to occur, and it is also very great advantage. Disadvantage, sorry. This has already been mentioned previously in meeting. So generally we would never know who is bodhisattva or not, who has bodhicitta or not know. And so therefore it's always good to be mindful of not saying any unpleasant, harsh words to anyone, especially out of anger, hatred. And it is not easy. It's not easy to not to do that, especially when you have been upset by something. And so that is why we need to be more careful, here is saying. Furthermore, it's told the Sutra of Magic of the complete certainty of total peace. That is, if a bodhisattva generates a mind of contempt toward a bodhisattva, he must remain held for eons, and apart from depreciating a bodhisattva, nothing can make a bodhisattva fall into lower realms. In the verse summary of the Perfection Wisdom 8,000 line, it also said, if a bodhisattva who has not yet obtained prophecy argue out of anger with bodhisattvas, who has obtained a prophecy for however long mind period about it, it will have spent eons longer on the path. So it's disadvantage of out of anger, saying back to the bodhisattvas is such a strong, huge negative karma. Even the bodhisattvas who are on lower realization, if they do that to the higher realized bodhisattva, even they have that, create that negative karma, then for us who are still on, hasn't generated anybody, then our will be even stronger. The disadvantage will be much more bigger. The negative karma will be much more stronger. Because of that, it is also taught in the same text that you need to put into the anger to in all aspect and put effort in confessing it and restraining it immediately whenever it arises. And so therefore, try to not allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by the anger, and due to not being mindful, due to previous imprint, due to our delusion being too strong, due to certain strong circumstances, if the anger do arises, recognize that and try to let it go as soon as possible and not to hold on that for a long time. And as we mentioned, the more you hold, the more you suffer, the more you experience pain. And not to talk about creating so much negative karma as is mentioned here. And with respect to an object activity done out of deceit and shiftiness, but without extraordinary attitude, the object is any other sentiment. So, and then the actions what one does to him to act is with the deceit and cheapness. So deceiving other sentient beings, you know. Since we have taken the both of vows to benefit and help and protect sentient beings, deceiving them, what is sheepness? Deceiving. Yoju. I think this is yoju. Deceiving yoju. Okay. In this regard, deceit and sheepness are explained in terms of deceiving with respect to the measure and weight and so forth. Something like what Gyawa Ejung did in order to send someone off to Rakma. He caused him to send to Tolung, so he's talking about someone and deceiving by, instead of sending to someone at one place called Rakma, he sent it to Tolung first, so after that he will freely accept Rakma. According to the continuum of training, I don't know, I don't understand this story fully. Deceit is the display of quality that actually do not exist, and sheepness is to take measure for fault not to have evidence. So yeah, that is normally what it is. Yokyu in Tibetan, yo and gyu, and in order to deceive others, you know, you try to, in order to deceive others, yo is that you try to show up more quality, pretending you have more quality than you have, more knowledge than you have, in order to impress and deceive others. And then gyu is that in order to, again, deceive others and others, then you try to hide your faults, your shortcomings, you know. And so that is the two of them. Either way of, through either way of deceiving, that it is deceiving. Okay.
$246. Master Shantideva's May all beings everywhere plagued by the sufferings of bodies and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. 244, short, long life prayers. First for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then for Lama Zopa Rinpoche.
Did you get the new one?
I did.
I think that is what they want.
Oh. Does everybody have the new one?
Okay. Maybe next time. Then we do the normal one today.
Okay. Gangre
Rave Korwe Shinkam De Pendam Alu Jungwe Ter Shere Se Wan Tinzin Yaso Yi Shape Patu Tenkyo Chi Tu Tu Chang Shin Cham Gun Jawe Ten Zin Yong Pe We Kun Su Do Re Cho Song Ku We Le Mo Tu Tu Pa Da So Du Che Kun Du Shap Ten Shu. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.